You are now listening to Tech Talk, a Caddo Kiowa Technology Center podcast. Enjoy.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is Thursday, May 11th, 2023. My name is Dylan Young, and I am the Communications and Marketing Director here at Caddo Kiowa Technology Center, located in Fort Cobb, Oklahoma, and we are back doing another episode of Tech Talk, a Caddo Kiowa Technology Center podcast. And today I'm excited because we have some amazing students across campus, without a doubt. We're very proud of our students, but we have one today that I'm not going to give it away. I'm going to let them get into it, but just real quick, I want to introduce our pre-engineering instructor, Mr. Reed Allen, and I will give him the honors and let him introduce the student that is joining us today. Reed, what's going on?
Oh, not much. We got rained on coming over here, so my hair's a little wet, but I think I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, you're going to make it. You're going to survive.
Yeah. So we have Rolando Torres with us. He's from Binger. He's one of our pre-engineering students. He's a senior this year, so he's leaving us. And he has a really exciting path ahead of him. All of our students end up going into something really, really interesting, and we can't honestly, interview all of them. But we decided to highlight Rolando because he is going to the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. So you guys have probably heard of that, and we're going to let him kind of talk about some of that. But before we get into that, let's ask some icebreaker questions for Rolando, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay.
And first of all, real quick before you start, congratulations. That's really awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, Rolando, what is your favorite movie?
Avengers Infinity War.
Okay. That's kind of specific. Do you like all of the Marvel movies? I'm sure you do.
I do, but I think that was probably my favorite.
Okay. What's your favorite kind of music?
It depends on my mood, I guess, but right now a lot of R&B, but honestly kind of pop as well.
Okay. What kind of music do you listen to when you study?
I can't really listen to music while I study because it's distracting, but if there's something going on in the background, it's probably some instrumental music.
Okay, you guys heard that, instrumental music to get you to MIT while you study.
Man, I wish I'd have known that a long time
ago. Can you cook?
Yes.
And what do you like to cook?
I really mostly like to bake, but I think a combination of cooking and baking is a good balance.
Okay.
Nothing specific, really. Just whatever has a good recipe.
Now, does your family depend on you to cook?
No.
No. Okay, so it's not an all the time thing.
Not at all.
But you can do it when called upon.
I can do it if I really want to.
All right. If you could spend a day with anybody in the world, dead or alive, who would it be?
That's a tough question.
Putting him on the spot.
That's a tough question. And, people always say never meet your idols. So I'm going to go with, I'm fine with meeting the people that I've met so far.
Oh, wow. Okay. Dang. See, I was expecting something else, but that touched my heart. Awesome. What has your experience been like here at Caddo Kiowa Technology Center?
It's been nothing but positive. I mean, as soon as I joined this program, I discovered that it's a place full of people that really want to be here and really care about the things that they're learning about, and I think that's really important and something that is really difficult to find at a traditional school because schools have to teach every subject, and not everyone is interested in everything. So the fact that everything here is so concentrated and kind of more narrowed down into specific fields makes it so that everyone kind of finds their place here, and I think that's really special.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you on that, and I appreciate those kind words, and I'd like to also point out that that's not exclusive to the pre-engineering department. We have a lot of really good instructors here, and what he said about the kids that are here, they're interested in what they're doing here. And that's really important because I've taught public school, and I've had great kids everywhere I've taught. But there are some that, would rather be doing something else, and that's totally fine because if you take a whole student body, a whole population of a town's kids, and you throw them all in together, not everyone's going to have the same interests, and they're not all going to be 100% on board with what you had planned to do that day. But here, our kids, they've took it upon themselves to step out of their comfort zone and do something challenging because they're actually interested in doing it. And whenever you have a classroom full of kids that are all of that mindset, or mostly all of that mindset, you can challenge them, and they take those challenges and they have fun with them. And that is really important. And I'd really like to highlight that for every program on campus as well. Who is your inspiration for what you've decided to do in engineering?
I always jokingly like to say Tony Stark, but in reality, it's not really a specific person that was an inspiration, but rather just how innovative how innovative the engineering field is and can be, and how much potential it has for helping people in ways that may not be really obvious at first, but something as simple as making life a few seconds more convenient is something that's hard to emulate in other fields. So I think engineering is so attractive to me because of how versatile it is.
I'd agree with that. People take for granted a lot of the technology, for one, because right now you're listening to this podcast on something that somebody had to design, and it wasn't an idea that they had and they built that morning and now you have it. It was a team of people. It was a whole group, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people that would come together, get the materials, engineer the parts, the programming, the electrical, wiring, everything. It all went into what you're listening to this podcast through, and it was because people, thought of new ideas. They didn't just stagnate and continue using the same stuff. They made it easier for you. They made it more convenient. So I really like that answer you gave as far as your inspiration. Now, you're a third-year person. So for our program, we take kids as early as sophomores. So if you come into our program as a sophomore, you get 3 years of math, science, and engineering courses. Our engineering courses, they last one semester. So Rolando has had 6 engineering courses. Out of those engineering courses that you took, which one did you find most enjoyable?
The most enjoyable for me was definitely Principles of Engineering. I still remember a lot of the things I've learned in that class, and I still recall a lot of those things in my day-to-day life, whether it be for learning about something new or building something, designing something, whatever it may be. There's a lot of skills that I learned in that class that I feel are applicable to the real life. I also really enjoyed environmental sustainability because although that's not really a field that I'm interested in, it really kind of diversified my view of engineering as a whole, and it made me realize that engineering is a lot more than just building things and putting things together. It can be a lot more than just that.
Yeah, so engineering, you hear that term a lot, and really all engineering is just figuring out a new way to do something useful. Problem solving is another good way to describe engineering. So our kids, they learn the engineering process. They learn how to solve problems. They learn how to make things more useful. And those skills translate to every single career opportunity you could possibly think of. Being an engineer, knowing engineering skills makes you a better farmer. Knowing engineering skills makes you a better lawyer, a better insurance salesman. Because every single career you can think of, in order to get ahead, in order to separate yourself, in order to better serve a customer or a client, you have to be innovative. You have to come up with new ways to do something to make things easier. So engineering is important in that context. First robotics. Our extracurricular here on campus is First Robotics. And for those of you who don't know, First Robotics is a global organization. It's a league of teams that compete every single year to perform a task. So unlike other extracurriculars that high school students encounter, like sports, choir, things like that. For FIRST Robotics, the rules change every single year. The game is completely different. Next year, baseball, basketball, those will all have nearly about the same rules. The overall goals are all the same. You're trying to score more goals, trying to score more runs, more points than the other team. But in FIRST, the game is kept secret. So in the first week of January, you learn what the new game is going to be, and then you have about 2 to 3 months to completely design, build, test, rebuild, test, rebuild, test, rebuild, test, rebuild a robot that will be competitive against other teams. Now, Rolando has been our programmer for FIRST Robotics, and he's also helped with design of the robot. Rolando, tell us a little bit about your experience with FIRST Robotics.
I think it's important to recognize the mission of FIRST Robotics, and it's made very clear by the name of itself. FIRST stands for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. And I think it's very aptly named because it's exposed so many students to the field of STEM and what it can do for them, and as well as what they can do for the field. And I think it's very important to expose especially younger students to STEM because it's a growing industry and we definitely need more people in it. As for my experience in FIRST Robotics, it's been a lot of learning, a lot of trial and error, but you learn things that you don't really expect to learn. I of course knew that I would learn how to program and design things and put things together, but I also learned collaboration and cooperation. And I learned that not all competition has to be so aggressive. You can be competitive and cooperate with your competitors.
Cooperation is what they call it.
Yes.
Yep. They really push that at our meets. Cooperation is the big buzzword, and what that means is, you might be playing against a team from Belize or Barbados, and you're trying to beat that team because you want to win. But if you go to our competitions and you go back to the pit area, you'll hear announcements all the time. Team 5510 needs a new or used Neo motor. And then there's a line of teams just eager to donate or loan out their parts so that a team full of kids they've never met before can continue to compete. And that's kind of touching for me. The first time I went to a competition and I heard that, part of you, I'm a big sports guy, and I'm like, oh man, well, they can go find one.
Yeah.
But then you start thinking about it and you're like, these kids have worked really hard for months, and just a simple thing as a replacement part could be the difference between them continuing to compete or them being done. And you put yourself in their shoes, and of course you want to help them out. So cooperation is very important in that context and also in the context of life, in my opinion. Rolando, you've had many opportunities from many different universities across the United States. What has the college selection process been like for you?
Well, I think MIT has always really been the dream school for me for several years now. But recently I really had to stop and think about the question, why? Was it just a reputation thing? Was it only a dream because it seemed like this unattainable thing at the time? And stopping to think about that question really made me realize a lot about the way that I view higher education, and it really made me reevaluate a lot of those ideas. So while reputation is important in a sense, I think it's also really important to determine whether a college is a good fit for you. And that takes a lot of research, a lot of talking to admissions officers, and talking to students there. And so after a lot of weeks of that, I realized that little me was right, and that MIT was the place for me. And even though it was a difficult decision to turn down Harvard and Yale and others, I definitely don't regret that decision, and I know that MIT is the place for me.
So I'm guessing you have everything worked out to go to MIT?
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay, it's kind of late if you don't, but
Yeah.
yeah. So what's it going to be like when you get there? What's your day going to be like? Do you know that yet?
I don't really know. I mean, everything's really different in a big city like that. There's not even any parking spaces, so no, I won't be taking my car. So I'll have to figure out how to use the subway and Uber everywhere and take a public shuttle.
I think you just have to sit down to use those.
Oh, okay.
I think you're going to be fine.
Maybe I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe get a bike.
Yeah.
A little bit different system up there than
A little bit,
Oklahoma.
A little congested
Yeah.
compared to here.
And in terms of courses and all that, I don't really know exactly what that'll look like. MIT is a little bit later than other schools in terms of their academic calendar, but I don't think it'll be anything too jarring, and I think I'll get used to it.
I bet you will. I know you will. So what are your future plans? What degree are you trying to obtain from MIT?
So MIT really likes their numbers. That's why all their buildings have numbers assigned to them, and all their courses also have numbers. I am majoring in course 2, which is mechanical engineering. But within course 2, there's also a concentration, which is course 2A. And that makes it so that you don't have to take some of the more difficult classes, such as thermal fluids engineering 2. And instead, you can do a concentration in a different field, such as computer science, astrophysics, aerospace, or others. And so I'm currently considering doing 2A with a concentration in possibly aerospace or computer science, but that's to be decided.
Why aerospace?
When I took the aerospace engineering course here at the Tech Center, I really enjoyed learning about aircraft and how they stay in the air, how they even take off in the first place. It's something that I did not understand whatsoever before taking that course, but now it's almost intuitive to me. And now that I have that understanding of aircraft, it's something that really interests me and something that I could definitely see myself working on in the future.
Okay, so in the future, when do you plan on graduating from MIT? Is that like a 4-year degree, 4-year course?
Yes, I should graduate in 2027.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay.
I'm going to set my reminder,
Check up on him, huh?
2027, ask Rolando what he's doing. So 5 years from now, that'll be a year after you graduate, where do you see yourself?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm someone that takes life one day at a time. So, that's not to say I don't have goals.
I don't believe that at all. But go ahead.
But, I try not to look too far into the future because I'm very open to change at all times. Even though I'm very set on mechanical engineering, I'm open to change on that as well. If something else piques my interest, I might change my major. I don't know yet. I don't really know where I'll be 5 years from now, but I think that's also something that's really great about mechanical engineering is how versatile it is. Mechanical engineering majors make some of the most hireable people in the workforce, and so even if I stick with that major and I decide it's not really for me, I won't really be out of luck, and I'll still be able to find something that I like.
So just for the sake of, this podcast is going to last forever and ever, long after we're gone. What 10 years from now? I know 5 years from now, you kind of gave me a vague answer, but 10 years from now, you going to have a big family, small family? You going to live back in Oklahoma? What are you doing?
Well, as of right now, I don't see myself living in Oklahoma in the future. But you never know. I've met several people, several MIT graduates that have moved back to Oklahoma. And not only MIT graduates, but other schools as well, Princeton, Harvard, Yale. People that have gone and they've met people, they've changed their view and their perspective on life and all this other philosophical stuff that they do.
Gross.
And they decided to move back to Oklahoma. And I really don't think I'll be one of those people, but I guess there's really no way for me to know.
I agree with that. I think here in 10 years, whenever you decide to listen to this again, you're going to laugh at some of the things that you said and might cry at some of the things you said because it might have worked out perfectly like you thought it would. And I know if I, went back 10 years and listened to a podcast I gave in high school, your age, it would probably not sound anything like what I'm doing right now. And I'm glad because I feel like I'm in a good spot. How do you plan on giving back to the world? What's your legacy going to be? Ideally.
Well, I hope that I design something that makes life more convenient for at least one person. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good, small, realistic, achievable goal to have. But maybe a bigger goal would be to maybe have a part in exploring Mars and further space exploration.
Okay, I'll see you on Mars in 10 years, I guess, 20 years. What advice would you give your 10-year-old self? If you could go back in time and just speak with, little you, what would you tell them?
I'd probably tell him to go out and make more friends. It's something I've definitely done more of recently, but I think every child would benefit from being taught the importance of socialization. And although academics is very important, of course, it should never be prioritized over other things like socialization and making friends and things like that.
Amen. I agree to that. Would you, like I said, this podcast is going to last forever and a lot of people are going to listen. So do you have anybody back at home you'd like to thank?
I definitely want to thank my parents. Although they've always pushed me to do my best in school, they've never forced any kind of school on me. They've never told me that they've wanted me to go a specific place. And although they were a little bit bummed out that I'm fleeing the state, they're very proud of me, and I'm very grateful to have that support system.
Awesome. All right, I think that pretty much covered what we set out to talk about today. Rolando, very proud of you.
Thank you.
You've been a joy. You've been. I wouldn't say you were easy to teach because it's hard to teach someone that's going to go to MIT.
Yeah, I was about to say, how does that work?
It's hard to teach anybody. And, everybody's so different. And like I said, I'm highlighting Rolando today, but to every student that I've ever taught here or Hydro, Clinton, wherever, you all have great things inside of you, just like Rolando does. And your paths might be different. But I am proud of every single person I've taught, and it is difficult. But I'm glad you are where you are. I'm glad we got to spend 3 years together. That was really cool. Glad for all the help you gave in robotics, and I'm glad for you, at least listening to what I had to say and pretending like you were learning something new. That was really courteous of you, and thank you.
Well, thank you for everything that you did teach me, even though you'll deny it. But I definitely learned pretty much everything I know in STEM from you and from Mr. Morgan. I have a lot to be thankful for here at the Tech Center, and I definitely wouldn't have gotten.
Careful.
I definitely wouldn't have gotten the ACT score that I did if I hadn't gone through this program. So
honesty was never a strong suit. So So anyway, that sounds like a wrap to me. What do you think, Dylan?
Oh, yeah. I think that sounds good. And obviously, Rolando, good luck at MIT. It's very awesome. And appreciate you guys, both of you, taking the time to join me today for another episode of Tech Talk.